Well, let's talk about the coal industry. They talk about the EPA, they talk about President Obama, they talk about investing in their business and how Mr. Obama is against them with all of his EPA regulations. People talk about the storm Sandy, global warming, they point fingers at that. How does the president strike a balance between the energy needs of a very hungry country, America, and protecting the environment and still getting the economy moving and getting those coal jobs going?
That is a fantastic question, because
it's in my job description, Rob.
that's what the president's I think the toughest part of his job, because do you allow things to go on that you know or have a lot of information that are going to harm the country in general in terms of the environment? Do you allow things to go on there just because it's going to hire some people on in the short term? You know, there's this conversation that we have as far as debt goes about, well, we're leaving our children with XYZ dollars of debt, and that's irresponsible for the future generation. But it's also irresponsible if you don't have an environment in that they can live in without these superstorms and without tremendous hurricanes and other things that maybe we have the opportunity to control. So I think that you put some things in place to sort of try to limit the worst things that can happen to the environment, because if you do that, the funds and the investment will eventually shift to areas where they believe they can make money, and perhaps that is in solar, perhaps it is in wind, perhaps it's in some other energy sources that aren't going to be as dangerous.
But there's a lot of resistance to that. People point to Solyndra and all the rest of the companies that failed, that had a great deal of government money and support. Is the president right in trying to strike that balance that you're talking about, and continuing to try to fund some of these companies when you've got coal companies that are going full tilt and bringing out more coal than ever here in the United States?
I think he's right in trying to strike the balance. I don't know whether it was necessarily right to specifically invest in Solyndra or some of these companies or not.
But come on, you're a financial advisor. Tell me, should I put my money in some of these green companies, windmills and all the rest?
Green companies, yes. Specific companies like Solyndra, I'm not sure. But green technologies, alternative energy. Listen, here's the thing. When you talk about jobs being created in a major way, there's usually something that happens in the country that sparks that. So you either had the Industrial Revolution, right? Or you had the internet, okay, in the 90s and early 2000s. And somewhat in the mid 2000s, you had the housing industry that was boosting a lot of jobs. It seems to me that the next frontier, because we don't have anything like that now, it seems to me the next frontier would be alternative energy, something that in a major way could create a lot of jobs over a relatively short period.
Well, Germany is a good example of how that is working. They've transferred a lot. They're shutting down some of their nuclear plants. And you talk about investing. No company in America wants to build a nuclear plant without government subsidies. They complain, business does, about subsidies all the time and what people want from the government, but nobody will build one without any kind of nuclear subsidy from the government.
Everyone is against the government spending money until their name is on the check from the government. But here's the thing. The government's role is to perhaps, I think, step into some of these industries that may not be profitable in the short run. I mean, to be honest, we may not actually have the internet if government hadn't spent money in developing those types of technologies, right? So solar, wind may not be something that's profitable now, but because the government is a nonprofit organization, they can take some of those funds and invest in developing those technologies and eventually hand that over to private business. But somebody's got to get that started.